Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Congress 2023. For those of you who I don't know, my name is Louise Travascus, and I am the FAAA's Head of University and Student Programs. Hence, I'm your panel moderator for today's session. Before we start, a few housekeeping matters, which you'll be getting used to throughout the 2 days. Phones on silent, please. Feel free to check now if you're not sure. You may need it, however, for the Q&A during the session, a bit like the plenary. Just an FYI, this session is being recorded, mainly for CPD purposes, and all questions will be recorded as well. You hopefully have been scanned in. That allows us to award you CPD hours for this session, as long as you stay for 80% of the session, and your CPD certificates will be sent to you in the coming weeks if you are eligible. So that's the housekeeping. The panel today, you're going to hear from experienced academics and a recent graduate about how financial practices and the financial sector can engage more with the higher education sector, the latest trends and demographics in who is at university today, because I think there's a few myths out there about that, what graduates are looking for in employment opportunities with your practices, and also how we can learn from other professions how they attract quality graduates into their businesses. So let me introduce the panel to you. At the far left for you, we have Mark Olnick. Mark is a senior lecturer in financial planning and the program director of financial planning in the Department of Accounting at Deakin Uni. He has extensive experience both in academia and in industry. He was an authorised rep or an advisor for over 15 years and has been an academic for 20 years as well. He was a founding committee member and is the current chair of the Financial Planning Education Council. Next to Mark, we have Ron McIver from Uni SA here. He is the Business Program Director for Finance and Financial Planning and a member for the Centre of Markets, Values and Inclusion at the University of South Australia. He's an academic member of the FAAA, a fellow Afincia Senior Associate, and a current member of the Financial Planning Education Council. Next to him is Dr. Kirsten McDonald. Kirsten is a senior lecturer in Griffith Uni's Department of Accounting, Finance and Economics, and there she serves as their program director for all their commerce programs. She is also the co-chair of the Financial Planning Academics Forum that met yesterday at University of South Australia, and is also a member of the Financial Planning Education Council, and in her spare time is the associated editor for the CFP Board's Financial Planning Review Journal. Last but by no means least is Matthew Canizet. Matthew is a recent graduate from Deakin University. He holds a Bachelor of Commerce, the major in financial planning and a minor in finance. Good choice on your major, Matthew. He was involved with the Deakin Commerce Society and was their Director of Finance and Economics in 2021 and then became their Treasurer in 2022. He was a finalist in the 2021 FPA University Student of the Year Award, and then last year took out the prize, so is the current University Student of the Year recipient for a few more hours until we hand it over to someone else tonight for this year's winner. But he's been a member of the FPA and FAAA Emerging Professionals Committee and has a very strong interest in promoting the benefits of and a career in advice to both students and career changes. Hence, you'll have great insights as well. So please welcome our panel. I might start with the first question and then move over. But the first question's for the academics. As I just mentioned, I think there's a lot of myths out there about who is at uni, who's graduating from these approved degrees. So can each of you just tell us in 2 or 3 minutes, who is the demographic of your undergrad, and if you have, postgrad as well? Male, female, career changes, new entrants, etc.
Start off? Okay, good. At Deakin University, we've been running financial planning courses for quite a few years, about 20, 30 years, both undergraduate and postgrad, like all the other universities here. The undergrad are predominantly school leavers who somehow managed to find their way into financial planning. It is a difficult pathway because they don't do any financial planning at school. Most of them don't know what financial planning is, and perhaps the bad publicity hasn't helped also attract students into financial planning, but they're predominantly school leavers. For our postgrad, originally we go back to prior to 2019, they were career changes, and so they were coming from a whole range of different types of career paths, teachers, social workers, nurses, a whole range. 2019 came along and we had the existing advisors who had to come back and do a degree, so the whole demographics changed. We moved from having basically career changers who knew nothing, and which was a difficult area to try to teach, because then we had career changers who knew nothing and existing advisors who knew a lot. Now, since the existing advisor pathway has come into play, the existing advisors have now diminished, and that'll sort of slowly die away, and we're left with the, again, career changes. So they're a bit different now though. They're primarily in their late 20s, 30s. They're predominantly from support roles, so accounting or client service roles, paraplanning, and they're looking to progress their career or move into the advice space. So they're predominantly what we're getting. We're getting a few that are outside that. So, I've got a 65-year-old TAFE teacher who's moving across and doing a course. You've got a few people from mining, but predominantly they're in the support roles who are looking to move across. And just in terms of demographics, which I don't think it's changed in the last 5 to 10 years, about 40% of females, and that hasn't changed. It just, ticks up and down a little bit, but, even despite the scholarships that we had from the government over the last couple of years, it's really hard to get more females into the industry. So that's something that we all have to work on.
Thanks, Mark. Ron?
Yeah, we have a strong cohort of school leavers in our undergraduate program, and with our UniSA online product, we have a lot of 20s and 30s who are sort of in the sector but looking to progress to a full role. In our postgraduate area, we're actually lucky. We've got quite a few international students, and we've got a more even mix of male and female candidates in that. So that's been really great for us to see that. So we're into the 40s more in terms of the percentage of women in the overall program, and that reflects also in our UniSA online. So we're a little bit luckier that way. We didn't probably capture as many of the industry people as we would have liked at the time, so we haven't been as affected by the exit of that sort of cohort. So again, we've been a little bit lucky there as well.
Similar to Ron, with roughly even mix of male and female students coming in, but predominantly online, both in the undergrad and the postgrad space, and predominantly part-time study, because even the school leavers who are in the undergraduate programs are working in support roles, similar to what Mark said, and wanting to progress their career and really get skilled up for that PY and try and transition to the profession while they've been studying. In terms of our postgrad students, an increasing number of advisors wanting to move into further study to actually do a dissertation, some research in this space, which is really important, and starts to look towards what's happening overseas, where many of the CFP advisors are also doing further research to inform the body of knowledge in financial planning.
Great, thank you. Sounds like a very diverse audience you need to cater for there. This one's for you, Matthew. I know you've got a job, but if there is practice principals here that are looking to hire, what are you as students looking towards in a practice in order to make it that practice that you want to work for?
Well, I think students who are graduating today look for primarily flexibility in their work. So whether it's working from home, kind of that hybrid style life, or just a very social environment to work with. I recently accepted a job with Pursue Wealth, so headed by Sam Robinson and Josh Wingrove. And I went in there for an hour and a half initial interview, felt like a very half-hour conversational chat, and came out of there being like, nah, I think that's it, that's the place for me to be. So it's really important when looking for a job to actually do your research and go into the office. I think particularly after COVID as well, we went through uni online, like I went through uni online, and I know a lot of other people did too. So just to have that kind of face-to-face connection. There's some businesses who are completely virtual, and personally that's not for me at the moment. I much prefer that social environment to be in. You know, you're around team, you just those hallway kind of conversations that come up every now and then. But when looking for a role, it's really important to put yourself out there, take up as many interviews as you can, kind of go to the industry events like these, network with employers, network with BDMs, kind of get their perspective on what I should look for in a business, what advisors they work with. For example, if you are interested in ethical investing, make sure you go to a company or interview with a company who is focused on ethical investing as well. So I guess, pretty much finding a company that fits your values.
So that was your number one must-have. Was there a run if they do this red flag scenario for you, or you were open to any sort of business structure?
Mostly, it was interesting. So I guess I went for a few interviews, and along the way there was a few businesses, and I was like, you guys have a pretty good system here in terms of how you deal with clients, your interactions with clients, the CRM platforms, but it's not the type of clients that I want to be dealing with. So it was more kind of a few firms who dealt with mostly retirees, pre-retirees, and as a 22-year-old, I was like, I kind of want to actually be involved in someone's life. Want to help clients set up, buy their first home, set up a family, start a family, and all that stuff. So that was probably maybe not a red flag for some people, but when I was looking for a role, that was probably a big thing that came into mind as well.
Great, thank you. And being a Deakin graduate, Mark, are they the sort of things you hear from other students when they're looking to practices, what they're wanting to see and feel and get from their first job opportunity or second job opportunity?
I agree with Matthew. I don't think students are primarily, money's not their, perhaps the only focus. I mean, it is a criteria, of course, but it's not their main focus. But they are really interested in the cultural fit, the values. Is this practice right for me? They come and say, well, do I go for a small practice or a large practice? What sort of practice should I go for? But it's the values they're looking for and it's difficult because we're not as, I suppose, developed as something like accounting where we've got defined career paths, so that's an issue for the students. But they want a career path, they want to be able to move ahead. So I think, quite often the problems I see is the students come back to me afterwards and say, I was stuck in client administration, I could never get any exposure to clients, the advisor never brought me in, and I'm just stuck doing back office work for 2 or 3 years and I can't progress. So the students want to get involved with clients. That's what they got into the profession for. So having a defined career path, being able to progress, being involved in clients, the values. But so I think that's the students. I mean, we know we've got a shortage of advisors, but the trouble is we're not the only ones. Most other professions have the same shortage problems, and I'm in a department of accounting. Accounting's got the same issues, and they've also got shortages. They can't find people with 2 years' experience to work. So we are competing against a lot of other professions to try to get the best of students, and it's all about how do you approach the students. And I think quite often I see these position descriptions for students, and they're 4 or 5 pages long, full of detail. And again, if I was a student thinking, I've got page and page off, I have to do this and I have to be good at this, and there's 15 things, I'd be turned off. So, you need to put yourself in the shoes of what's a student looking for, and it has to be, short, succinct, straight to the point. And again, another thing is, getting the students part-time. So quite often the students will want to know, this position, can I take on a part-time role? You know, is it just full-time, or can I start before I've graduated, work 2 days a week, study part-time, and then move into it, which is a great way to transition the students into the workforce. Because quite often, by the time you come to the end of their course, there's not many students that haven't got jobs already. So, you know, it's a really competitive environment, and we'll talk about this later on, but unless you get in early, and we have practices come all the time and say, oh, we want your best student, and they come to us, you know, we want your best graduating student. All gone. Nothing left. They've all been taken. They're already working. So I think it's, yeah, you need to put yourself in the shoes of the student about, you know, what's going to make your practice attractive to try to attract the best of students. And these students have got a lot to offer, you know, AI, social media, you know, and I speak to a lot of practices who take on students and they've changed the whole nature of the practice. You know, younger clients, much greater use of social media to try to attract clients, and just a different mix to the whole business.
Good points. And I just mentioning accounting and getting in early. I know they all get their jobs early, and we need to work together to make that happen in financial planning as well. Kirsten, I know you've just been overseas and you've got accounting at Griffith in your commerce world there. Can you tell us, is there something we can learn from other professions that can help us get these graduates earlier, like Mark was saying? And what are the tips and tricks you can give to practice principal and everyone in this room to secure the best talent?
Don't wait till they're in their final year. Come and see us now to talk to our first year students and to our career changers and advisors who are coming in the postgrad programs. Some of the things that we see, even in the postgrad programs, that the existing advisors make networks there and tell the other students who haven't yet got a job what it's like to be in that practice, and the sorts of things that Matthew was saying. They start to hear about the values and the sort of social support characteristics of that practice, and they want to go and work there. So it's important to tell your advisors who are studying how to network with the other students, but also to come in and, as I say, talk to those undergrad students early, attract them with prizes, scholarships. Some of them want to do work integrated learning, so a course where they study while they're working for you. But the problem is, in this market, it's a trade-off. Do they go and take a paid job? Or are they going to undertake this course and do work for you and they're not getting paid? So a way we can look at that is through those scholarships and prizes, and really get them into those roles early so they can develop their skills through their program. The careers fairs, I know that you've been to one of those before with us, Louise. It's great to come early in the year to the career fairs that are on at different universities and showcase what you have to offer, including the professional associations. So they get to know more about becoming a professional and the body that they'll join and that will support them as they grow into your practices. So there's really a lot of ways that people can get involved, and even coming to us as academics and saying you want to contribute to the curriculum. You might want to do a short video on your role and why you took that role up. What is it that inspired you to become an advisor or a paraplanner? Share that with our students. And there are other ways you can get involved too. It could be even through some of our assessment or other activities like showcases of student work, and you might be a judge or a marker. So.
Might just also jump in there too. So I found out about the FPA membership, would have been 2021, so second year uni. And at the time, I had no idea that it was free, it was there, it was all these resources that students can actually utilise when they're, you know, doing a financial planning degree or course. So for me, it was really important to actually attend those, you know, sign up to a free FAAA or FPA membership, as it was then, and then get involved in those networking events that they hold and industry days, and actually just meet people in the field. Because that's probably the biggest thing that I found that helped me along the way, was staying connected and, you know, getting connected in the first place. And if it wasn't for those types of events and opportunities, I don't think I'd be where I am today.
And Ron, Kirsten mentioned a few things about careers fairs and the like at universities. What else do the universities do to encourage engagement with the sector? And do they have careers areas or centres?
Well, we have career hubs or employment services, and any of you can log in, register and put every one of your jobs onto one of our hubs. So you can get it advertised broadly. If you want it focused just so financial planning students are hearing you, and seeing your information, you can come to one of the people that's listed on the legislative document, like myself or Mark or Kirsten, and we'll actually email the cohort for you so we can target financial planning students. So you can just reach out to the university in general, you can reach out to the program directors, and we love to have you come to our career events where we bring advisors together and present to the students about what opportunities are out there and available. And they really focus when you talk about your values, how you'll support their learnings, and how you want them to be active in their career. So they're keen to meet you. So whenever we're, having an event, if you can make yourself available, and if you'd love to have a chat and be recorded and be on the big screen in some of our courses and online, more than happy to have you with us.
Great. Awesome segue, Ron, to the PowerPoint slide that's up there now, and a big thank you to all the academics who helped the FAAA put this together. The blue hyperlinks on your right, I think it is, my left, will actually take you to those career hubs that Ron was talking about. There's a generic website, whereas Ron said you can advertise your roles, but then the email link is to their specific university career area, and the academics have generously given us their names. If you want to go straight to the source, they're there for however many are listed there. It's in the Congress app if you want to download it, because clearly the hyperlinks won't work with a photo, but you're welcome to take a photo as well. And I guess it would be remiss of me not to also promote, just briefly, the FAAA Careers Centre that Sarah mentioned at yesterday's plenary. This has only just gone live, so both for practices and students. Students, I can see a few in the room, can upload their CVs for free, and any practice that wants to advertise, there's discounts for you to advertise the roles for however long and until you find the right person. So it's clear that we need to collaborate. We might move on to new entrants as a focus area, and in particular, I think you mentioned it before, Mark, the professional year. It can be seen as a barrier, but I think those that do it soon realise that it's a perception, not a reality in all instances. Can you give us some ideas? You did mention internships before and working part-time and the like. Can you just bring that to life a little bit more so that those who are wanting to be planners and know they want to be a planner, again, how we can collaborate and get the right new entrant with the right practice?
Yeah, well, so internships, I think, we need to encourage the internship. So it's a great way to get the students in, see whether they're actually a good fit for the student, for your practice. And if not, you can move on to another student. But it is a very competitive market. If we go back a few years, the internships were largely unpaid. These days, because they're so competitive, the students can select, and most of them these days are paid internships. And I'll just quickly talk about internships. They're fairly flexible. They can be taken at various times. They don't have to be just taken at a certain time. So some might spread over, a semester. Some might be done during the semester break. It might be done 1 day a week, for 5 or 2 weeks. So they're a good way to give the students some, practice and a bit of a feel about how financial planning works. And I think that's important for the profession, to try to get more students into financial planning and get them to see what it's all about, because, and I'll come on to, the PY year in a minute, but what all of us face, the problem is, even though we've got students coming in through our programs, a lot of them are doing perhaps double majors, accounting and financial planning, and we're losing probably 40% of our students to other disciplines. So they come to the end of the degree, and because the other professions, the students have done internships in accounting, and accounting is very, they're on campus and they're promoting, and they've got a long history of recruitment, and they're big names that the students can identify with. It's very hard for small practices to get them in and to try to recruit the best of students. So I think, the internships are important, and as I said, we lose probably 40% of students who have done a financial planning degree but don't go into it. So the internships are a good way to give the students exposure to what financial planning is all about, and it does, enable you to move from an internship to part-time work to full-time work and provide this. And once you've got them in the practice, then there's a career path for the students. But the PY is a barrier, I think, quite often a perceived barrier. I think, most other related disciplines have a professional year, accountants, lawyers. It's a bit more established. I think, if we go over the next 5 to 10 years, the professional year in financial planning will be established and it won't be an issue anymore. But, I do see some practices where they don't want to take students on because it's too much work and it's too hard, we don't have the resources to put into it. We'll go for an existing advisor and pay, $120,000. But, these students are willing to learn. And I think the professional year does play an important role. We can teach the technical knowledge, but we can't teach a lot of that skill based on how to deal with clients and adding value and relating to clients, which quite often you need to do in practice on a more one-to-one basis, and you sit in front of a real client and learn what's going on. So I think the PY does play an important role, and I think we know now that you can do your first 2 quarters, but then you need to have finished the degree and sit the exam before you can go on to the 3rd and 4th quarters. But there's no reason why the 1st and 2nd quarters couldn't be done as part of a structured internship program, that students can do it through their degree. They start with the first 2 quarters, and as long as you've got a structured internship program, so that when they graduate and do the exam, they can move straight into the 3rd quarter and progress a lot quicker through the practice. And but again, not all students are going to be ready for PY. They don't have to start day one. Some might be ready, some might not be ready for 2, 3, 4 years. It just depends on the practice and the resources and the confidence of the student and their abilities.
And Ron and Kirsten, are you finding that with your students that go on to PY? Are they tending to finish the degree and then start, or are some starting whilst they're still studying?
We've got a bit of a mix at the moment. So we've got some people who, while they've been studying part-time, have been working sort of that customer service role and then sort of the almost paraplanning roles, and then trying to move forward. Some get a little bit frustrated because they feel they're not moving as fast as they'd like, of course. But then you do get a bit of a mix with starting their PY just as they finish. And we can facilitate that with our practicum courses, our work integrated learning courses, where we can structure a program with the practice and they can get their credit for the university degree and get some of their PY done, effectively via assistance, setting up a bit of guidance and curriculum. So we could be used a little bit more by businesses out there who have got staff who are completing degrees, working part-time for them, that they want to progress. So that there is a lot of avenues. Of course, we still have students who are looking to get into roles that will lead to a PY as well. But yeah, that general mix. But more needs to be, in a sense, taking advantage of us to help out, really work through some of those curriculum issues and education issues associated with the PY.
And Kirsten, similar or different at Griffith with your students going into PY or not going into PY straight after the degree?
Oh, look, quite a similar experience to what Ron and Mark have said. And there are certainly some students having a bit of frustration in terms of getting to where they want to be, I think, in terms of their goals. And the reason why some of them are heading to accounting, as Mark mentioned before, is because they're wanting to be in financial advice. They're getting offered positions or already have positions there. But the accountants are offering graduate programs. There's a structured career pathway and they can see how they can move through that. And if they're being told, well, you're going to be at least another 2 or 3 years before we start to put you in PY, and they've already done this degree that they needed to do, and they've already, worked on the exam and all of these things, I think they just want to see some progression. It doesn't mean they want to be the practice principal right now. They want to just see a structured pathway. So I think if as a profession, people start to think about what does that look like, how can we work with FAAA, the universities and others to actually put that in place?
a lot of our master's students, for example, have extensive financial services experience. So they've been in private banking, they've been in investment management. So they've already had client-facing roles, they've already had advisory roles, and more could be done in terms of thinking about that experience and moving them forward.
Is it Ben Lee? We're all in this together. Is that the song?
Yep, all in this together.
All in it together. There's some great questions coming through, and I'm not ignoring them, I'm reading them, so keep putting them through and we'll switch over to those after maybe one or two more questions. Speaking of PY, Matthew, I know you've gone through, you did an internship at uni or a part-time role, and then now you've got a full-time role. Do you want to discuss that pathway and how you found it and how you got to where you were today?
So I started off in the start of 2021 with a company called Allen Advisory Group based in Melbourne. It was actually my partner's dad who was the boss, and it was just kind of came on as a 6-month internship initially, just to get some experience in the advice industry. I was going to a financial planning major, and ended up loving the role, loving the business. And I feel like in a client services position, you often get a bit of everything. You get exposure to, whether it's onboarding clients, implementation processes, SOA construction. So for me, that was a real eye-opener. I was also really fortunate that he was very open in terms of providing me with opportunities to network and go to, FPA, AFA, FAAA events. So I was with him for about 2.5 years in a client services role. They actually became self-licensed as well. And as part of that, a bit of a rebrand, restructure, I set up their social media. So kind of set up a company LinkedIn, helped with the website design, and tried to attract and retain a few more clients. And probably his demographic is more pre-retiree, maybe 40 to 60 average client age. So it was really important, I guess, for him as well to bring on new younger clients and interact with them and engage with them in a different way than what he was doing previously. I was also fortunate enough to, did an 8-week internship with Australian Super last year in their advice and education division. Was working retail, kind of a couple of days a week, and kind of came across Shane Hancock, who's the head of advice there, and he was a customer. I was just having a chat to him, and he was like, if you're ever interested in, kind of coming on as an intern or something, just getting some experience in a larger super fund organisation, just let me know. And so ended up, messaging him on LinkedIn and went from there really. So it's kind of one of those things where you don't really know who you're going to come across. You don't really want to burn any bridges at all in this industry, in this profession, I should say now. But it's fantastic. Like that was a very different exposure to different members, different advice types, and compared to kind of smaller private practice, which I was at the time. I think going through that as well. So I left his business in June this year. So I graduated in June, then travelled for a few months, and then came back and started with Pursue Wealth. Would have been about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks now. Just super exciting. I think probably one of the biggest takeaways when looking for roles, you don't necessarily want to move straight from a graduate, when you've graduated, straight into a PY role. I went for, a few interviews and kind of just had some discussions with employers around there's probably, you want that kind of 6 to 9 month onboarding process as a CSO in client services before moving to your PY to understand the processes, how the business runs, what their kind of member client base is.
So on that note, there's a question here exactly about that. Obviously from a practice principle, you have the mindset that I don't expect to go straight into PY, but other people have obviously experienced people coming out of uni wanting to go into PY. What advice would you give to a practice principal to manage with students that if you want to come into our practice, it's not just overnight?
I would definitely say to practice principles, it's about actually, probably engaging and retaining the employee as a whole. You don't want to bring on someone as a PY student straight away, in my opinion, because I think, you do need that experience beforehand, understanding how the business works, really invest your time in, getting good, valued employees on board. Yeah, it's a bit of a tricky question, that one.
It is.
I don't know. It's hard to give advice to, I guess, practice principles, you know, at this stage. But I'd say, yeah, be really flexible, be open to every opportunity, and be innovative as well around your advice processes.
It sounds like if they're clear with you, you know what you're walking into.
Exactly, that's
or,
right.
no, I don't want that. Yes, I do want that.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
guess that's what you're saying. Yeah. Back to there's some questions for the academics. I'm not sure if you can answer some of them, but I'll give a stab. Have we seen uni enrolments increase or decrease? How many undergrad students are enrolled in each year? 1, 2, 3. And then this one's obviously aimed at me. Do we need the FAAA to present to year 10, 11 and 12 students to educate them on what the profession does? So a yes from me, and if you want to help me do that, come and find me in the break. I think we do need to get out to those high school students and promote the careers that are in financial advice, but in particular financial advising. I think there was mentioned yesterday by Sarah again, we do need to get more people coming in. So it's definitely in my thinking cap bucket. I'm only new at the FAAA, but I've been tapped on the shoulder a number of times with how we're going to do this. So again, in the interest or in the theme of collaboration, I think it's not going to be just me or just you or just unis getting the word out. It's going to be all of us working together to spread that word. But yeah, enrolments, up, down.
Yeah, I think it is absolutely essential that we get out into the schools. Nearly every time I do a school visit, most of the students don't know that financial planning is an actual career choice, a professional career choice. They think they're going to do maybe study economics or accounting or business and end up in something, but they don't actually, unless they've got a family member who goes to a financial planner and talks about it, or who is a financial planner, they don't really recognise that financial planning is a really great professional career. And when I go and explain that you can use some of your technical skills, but you can help people, it just really engages them, because there's lots of these students want to go into a career where they can make a difference in people's lives. And once they're introduced to this as an idea, we normally see their university preferences change for a small percentage of them, but we do see an impact every time we go and do a visit. So we know getting that information can get more people into the financial planning era. So that's a great way to approach. So absolutely essential. If you can help get the message out there, join in with the FAAA and help to promote at school level, be great.
I mean, the other point too is the school leavers, and again, you know, it's a matter of getting those in, but the other area is most students come in a Bachelor of Commerce or Bachelor of Business. They do a generic first year, and again, at the end of the year, they're then trying to decide what majors do they do, and so that's another point at which, you know, we have to try to persuade them and say, well, you know, financial planning is a good career. The only thing is we're battling against the more established disciplines who have got long established, you know, programs and units, you know, so it's management, economics and finance, and for something to go in, something has to go out, and no one wants to lose their territory. So, you know, it's really hard to get financial planning in as a common first year to get students exposed to it, that they then say, oh, this is great, and I'll, you know, do my major. So, you know, that's the difficulty we've got as well. But, you know, they're the 2 points. Year 12 students, trying to get them in, and, you know, it'd be great if they could do some financial literacy programs, and I know that there's a few organisations that run financial literacy programs for primary school students and some secondary school students, but it's very ad hoc. But then it's also within the university sector about trying to expose them to our financial planning courses and to move them across. So, I mean, I think the enrolment numbers are probably slightly increasing at undergrad, so not huge increases, but, you know, there's a steady increase. We would probably graduate in our undergrad about 120, 140 financial planning students a year. Perhaps a bit more, but again, as I said, we might lose 40% who do a major, but then just because the other professions, you know, and we're battling, and that's part of the problem that the profession's got. You know, you've got accounting coming in with, you know, large established names. whether it's BHP or the chartered accounting firms, finance, you've got the Macquarie banks and the other banks, and, they're all competing, and a lot of them are household names. And we've got financial planning where, it's Joe or Joan's financial planning practice down the road, and the students have never heard of it, and it doesn't mean anything. So I think there's certainly an increased role for licensees, associations, groupings to work much better together to look at how we get the name out there. And, small practices can't recruit. So they might come to us, 1 year, and then you don't see them for another 2 years, and they say, can we have your best student? And, it doesn't mean anything to the students. So it'd be far better if we could have, big groups, licensees, associations who are working to establish themselves with universities, getting the name out there, and, so it might be a practice here or a practice there within the group, but the names become a lot better known to students. And, it's a way to recruit the students. But, yeah, it is a difficult issue.
Similar to Mark, numbers holding or growing, but we can all do better. And I think everyone's covered this focus on the students, whether they're students in first year deciding on their major. We need to work harder on that, but you need to work with us too, and also FAAA. And we all need to work more to get out to the schools. But I think something we forget is the influence from home, the parents. Parents don't understand what financial advice is and what it can do for them. And so the whole community needs to work together to ensure that consumers know what financial advice is about, what value it offers, and that's how we will get more traction. We can't just focus on the school students and the students coming in.
And I can't ignore the top 2 or 3 questions here, so conscious of time, but the first most popular question has been, we seem to talk a lot about the lack of supply, which we have mentioned today, but some employers just can't increase the pay for new entrants coming in and or don't know how to do that structured career path for them. What comments, suggestions would you have on, practices that are, cash flow might be tight, but they do want to bring someone in, they're not sure how? What would you suggest? Maybe start with Kirsten.
Look, I think there's some other things that we can look at. It's part of what Matthew said about having that honest conversation. Sure, the small practices can't offer what a big accounting firm can in terms of graduate pathway, but having those conversations early, setting the goals so they know where they're heading, but then thinking about how can they actually add more value for you. And it is tricky in PY, but is it that they're looking at things like cash flow and things that they can do with clients to start to skill up before they move into the more advanced advice. So I think perhaps just thinking differently about how they fit into your business, and then even if they can't accelerate quickly at the beginning, maybe they will later on with more of that client-facing work.
The next most popular question, do universities offer a PhD pathway in financial planning?
Yeah.
Who wants to take that?
Well, no, we all do. All of us, each of our universities offers the opportunity to do, for example, a master by research, if you want to sort of put your toes in the water, or PhD. In our case, it would be PhD business, looking at financial planning. And we've got a range of really well qualified staff that can supervise and have done so in the past. So if you want to go for the gold, you can. Mark, you have similar?
Yeah, that's right. So there are, for those who've got a research interest and, want to be an academic, and just on that, there are a lot of roles, so that's part of the engagement with universities, because some, we have a lot of practices who come to us and are really keen to come back and want to get involved in taking classes, and it's a good way to get in and, perhaps give something back and give a bit more exposure to the students. But yeah, I think we've all got, but we do struggle. We are short on financial planning academics who have gone through the research pathway from masters by research and into a PhD. But we do struggle because again it's a new profession and we don't have a lot of students coming through. But we want more. That's how the profession's going to develop, and we need to provide that the research that comes through. And there's a session after this which There'll be a few papers talking about the type of research going on, but that's, I think a very important part of the development of the profession, that, we've got the research to back up some of the things that we do, whether it's risk profiling, that we've got a basis to what we do. There's a whole range of different issues. But, yeah.
But if you'd like to be involved in another way and you've got a sort of wicked problem that you really want looked at in detail over time, you can help to fund that and help to fund a PhD student with us, help provide a bit of a scholarship to get them in and working. I mean, you can also come and do a PhD part-time with us if you want to give up a few hours at the practice and devote a few to the study, but you can support development of the higher level graduates through supporting a scholarship, trying to get us to work with you on a particularly complex problem, and that forms the basis of the students' PhD studies. They're trying to help you solve that problem for your business. Or it could be a number of related problems, a 3-paper PhD, which we'd often do.
It's really applied research too, as Ron just said. If you've got a wicked problem, bring it along, because it could be for the students to try and help you solve, but also something you might want to work on. If you haven't got the background yourself and you're interested, do come and talk to us while we're here over the next couple of days. There are conversion pathways. You don't have to already hold particular degrees. So we can talk to you about how you can use your experience and look at equivalence in coming into a program that offers research to then get you through to that PhD.
Excellent. So there's many ways, and I know you are all going to be at the speaker zone after this session, so please do come and talk to the academics. The next most popular question is, there's limited exam sittings, and that's delaying some professional year candidates from progressing. Is there anything universities can do to support this? I'm happy to answer too.
We already support in that they contract our staff in to write the questions, in a sense, for the exam. So you may not know that they draw from industry and draw from us. I'm not sure we're that influential with the regulator, to tell you, to be perfectly honest. We try to communicate as much as we can with the regulator and bring up core issues related to what, much as the FAAA does, but from our side. So it would be nice to have that sort of level of influence, but...
We have, as Mark is the chair of the Financial Planning Education Council and myself as co-chair of Financial Planning Academics Forum, we have had conversations with Financial Advisor Standards and Conduct Unit about the timing of the exam. So we are trying to advocate for the students and practices to try and make change.
And I think the 2024 exam dates are now on the ASIC website. So my suggestion to you is sit down with your PY supervisor and map that out really carefully. Have a plan B just in case you don't get into the preferred exam sitting. Know when that will be if you don't get in or happen to fail, because you are therefore stuck in Q2 if you don't pass the exam. And that's okay, it just means that you're not ready yet, but I think that preparation is really key in terms of the stages of PY, and happy to talk to anyone about PY at the FAAA stand, because I can see lots of questions here.
I might just come in too, Louise, just in terms of, responding to Treasury and talking to Treasury. We spend, unfortunately, a lot of our time now, because there's just so much going on from the regulatory point of view, the PY, the exams, but especially the National Financial Planning Curriculum. So what should the curriculum be? It's traditionally, there's 11 competency areas, estate planning, insurance, super, all those sort of things. Are they all important? Can we cut some back? How do we squash them within an 8-unit graduate diploma? The graduate diplomas, very structured. Do we need more core? Do we need less core? Do we need more electives? So we're doing a lot of submissions on that. And then the other area is how do we get more people in through pathways? So they've got an accounting degree or they've got some related degree. How do we, what should be the pathway to move them forward? And we're going to have the interesting issue down the track of non-relevant providers coming in, perhaps. And how do we move students from, perhaps simple advice right through to complex advice. So, yeah, we're spending a lot of time with Treasury now talking about those sort of issues, and there's going to be a lot of changes going on, which is unfortunately keeping us busy.
Excellent. And I think that leads me into another question about the pathways. A few of you can't find the spreadsheet in the app, but I know a lot of photos were taken. It is in there. We can email it to you or come and see me at the FAAA stand, because I think what I've got out today is it is about working closer together, whether it's the businesses, the students, the uni, the association. You know, this is a wicked problem, I think I heard someone say before, so we all need to work together to solve it. Please thank me in our panel members, Matthew, Kirsten, Ron and Mark. The session, please rate the session in your app. Forgot my prop. Rate the session in the app. If you are staying in this room for the next session, the research session that was mentioned before, then can I please ask that you just step outside for a couple of minutes, because you will need to get scanned back in, and we'll do a quick little tech check. But otherwise, enjoy the Congress, and don't forget, meet the speakers in the speaker zone. Thank you very much.